Aldrich Ames, the CIA agent who betrayed America. Hello, my friends. Welcome to Secret Agents Exposed. Today, we dive into a story so wild, so shocking, so interesting you won't believe it's true. Let's start. Imagine working for one of the most secretive agencies in the world. You hold top-level security clearance. You know names, operations, secrets that could topple governments. Now imagine selling all of IT to the enemy. This is the story of Aldrich Ames, the CIA officer who sold America's deepest secrets to the Soviet Union and caused the deaths of countless assets. A betrayal so vast, it shook the intelligence world to its core. Who was Aldrich Ames? Born in 1941 in River Falls, Wisconsin, Aldrich Hazen Ames came from a family with intelligence ties. His father worked for the CIA. Ames himself joined the agency in 1962 after graduating from George Washington University, initially working as a low-level records analyst. Ames worked his way into the Directorate of Operations. He soon became involved in assignments overseas, notably in Ankara, Turkey, and later in Mexico City, where he managed covert assets and Soviet agents. He wasn't particularly flashy, if anything. Ames was seen as unremarkable, but behind the dull exterior was a man driven by debt, disillusionment, and a dangerous willingness to risk everything. The beginning of the betrayal. By the mid-1980s, Ames had developed serious financial problems. He was divorced, had expensive tastes, and was trying to impress his new wife, Rosario Casas Dupuy, a Colombian diplomat. His lavish lifestyle stood in stark contrast to his CIA salary. He walked into the Soviet embassy in Washington, D.C., and offered his services to the KGB. In April 1985, Ames made a life-altering decision. He handed over a list of U.S. double agents working within the Soviet Union, effectively signing their death warrants. Over the next 9 years, Ames would receive over $2.7 million from the Soviets. He became one of the highest-paid spies in history. At least 10 CIA sources were executed. Dozens more were imprisoned. Entire intelligence networks in the USSR were dismantled. The damage done. The betrayal was catastrophic. The sheer scale of the leak created deep confusion within the CIA, which couldn't understand why so many operations were failing, despite red flags including unexplained wealth, buying a $540,000 house in cash, luxury cars, and first-class travel. Ames wasn't thoroughly investigated. Background checks were poorly conducted, and polygraph tests were either skipped or failed to raise alarms. Ames leaked over 100 operations and compromised every Soviet agent the CIA had access to. His disclosures affected U.S. counterintelligence globally, allowing the Soviets to manipulate and mislead the West for years. To hide his treason, Ames used his position to manipulate internal investigations and even participated in efforts to discover the mole, efforts he himself was sabotaging. How he got away with IT for so long. His tradecraft was relatively simple, yet effective. How could one man commit such enormous betrayal for nearly a decade without being caught? Rosario, who aided in collecting the money, was sentenced to 5 years. Part of the answer lies in institutional failure. He also used dead drops, invisible ink, and briefcase exchanges, classic espionage techniques, to pass on information and receive payments from the Soviets. The CIA was forced to overhaul its vetting, surveillance, and counterintelligence protocols. His position gave him access to names, programs, and operations, and the CIA's outdated security practices let him exploit the system without immediate suspicion. To him, IT was always about the money. 10 years of betrayal, dozens dead, billions in damage, the investigation and capture. By 1991, the CIA and FBI began to suspect a mole due to the unprecedented damage. Ames was charged with espionage. The nation was stunned. One of the CIA's own had sold out his country. A joint CIA-FBI task force quietly began zeroing in on potential insiders. Ames was finally placed under full surveillance in 1993. They watched his movements, bugged his car, tapped his phone, and even sifted through his garbage. Eventually, the evidence became overwhelming. On February 21, 1994, Aldrich Ames and his wife Rosario were arrested. He pleaded guilty in April 1994 and received a life sentence without parole. Legacy and impact. Aldrich Ames' betrayal prompted massive internal reforms in U.S. intelligence. He remains one of the most damaging spies in American history, comparable only to Robert Hansen, another mole who operated within the FBI. Ames has never shown genuine remorse. stating in interviews that he never really believed in the USSYSTEM. His story became a cautionary tale, one that illustrates how greed, negligence, and misplaced trust can dismantle national security from the inside. One man, Aldrich Ames, didn't he just betray his agency? He betrayed every intelligence officer who put their life on the line, every asset who trusted the U.S., and every citizen who believed they were protected. In the shadowy world of espionage, where loyalty is currency, his name remains synonymous with ultimate treachery. See you in the next video with unique story.